What if some of Hollywood's most shocking intimate scenes weren't acting at all? Sounds like a wild internet rumor, right, Till? Not so fast. From Oscar-winning stars to cult movie icons, these celebrities pushed the boundaries of filmmaking in ways that left audiences stunned, critics arguing, and studio executives reaching for aspirin. Some denied everything. Others openly admitted it. And a few stories are still sparking debates decades later. Before you look at your favorite movies the same way again, buckle up, because the truth behind these scenes is far stranger, messier, and way more unbelievable than Hollywood ever wanted you to know. Number 1. Halle Berry and Billy Bob Thornton. At number 1, we have Halle Berry and Billy Bob Thornton, the stars behind one of the most controversial scenes ever put on the big screen. When Monsters Ball premiered, audiences weren't just discussing the movie, they were obsessed with a single intimate scene between the two actors. It looked so raw, so emotional, and so believable that rumors exploded almost immediately. Viewers everywhere began asking the same question. Were they simply delivering Oscar-level performances? Or had the line between acting and reality become blurred? The speculation grew even stronger when Halle Berry revealed that she agreed to film the scene only if Billy Bob Thornton was willing to be just as vulnerable as she was. No Hollywood shortcuts, no double standards. That commitment helped create a moment that felt shockingly authentic. Instead of a glamorous movie romance, audiences witnessed two broken characters connecting during one of the darkest moments of their lives, making the scene feel almost uncomfortably real. What kept the rumors alive for years was the undeniable chemistry between Berry and Thornton. Every glance, every emotion, and every movement seemed completely natural. Thornton later admitted he was nervous before filming the scene. And honestly, who wouldn't be? Most actors worry about forgetting their lines. Thornton ended up starring in a scene that movie fans would analyze for decades like it was the Zapruder film of Hollywood romance. But here's the twist. Despite endless rumors and speculation, neither Halle Berry nor Billy Bob Thornton has ever confirmed what many viewers believed happened. Members of the production team have consistently maintained that everything was filmed professionally and that no real off-script intimacy took place. Yet more than 20 years later, audiences are still debating it. And maybe that's the real reason this scene became legendary. When a performance is so convincing that people can't tell where acting ends and reality begins, Hollywood has created something truly unforgettable. Number 2, Christine DeBelle and Alan Novak. At number 2, we have Christine DeBelle and Alan Novak, stars of a movie that managed to turn one of the world's most beloved childhood stories into one of the most controversial films of the 1970s. When Alice in Wonderland was released in 1976, audiences expected a quirky adaptation of Lewis Carroll's classic tale. Instead, they found themselves watching a film that sparked outrage, curiosity, and endless debate. What began as a fantasy adventure quickly became one of the most talked-about cinematic scandals of its era. The controversy centered on several explicit scenes involving Christine DeBelle and Alan Novak scenes that reportedly featured genuine, unsimulated intimacy. At a time when Hollywood carefully separated mainstream films from adult productions, this was almost unheard of. Suddenly, moviegoers weren't discussing Wonderland, the White Rabbit, or the Mad Hatter. They were asking a much different question. Had this film crossed a line that mainstream cinema was never supposed to cross? What makes the story even more fascinating is Christine DeBelle's own experience. According to later interviews, she initially believed she was auditioning for a much more traditional adaptation of Alice in Wonderland. Imagine showing up expecting tea parties, magical adventures, and talking rabbits only to discover you're about to become the center of one of the biggest movie controversies of the decade. That's not exactly the kind of rabbit hole most actors expect to fall into. Yet despite her surprise, DeBelle moved forward with the project and ultimately became the face of a film that audiences could not stop talking about. And here's the part nobody expected. Despite the backlash, the criticism, and the endless headlines, the film became a major commercial success. Produced on a relatively small budget, it earned millions and attracted audiences eager to see what all the fuss was about. Even respected critic Roger Ebert offered surprisingly positive remarks, praising the film's creativity and unique style. Nearly 50 years later, Christine DeBelle and Alan Novak remain forever connected to a movie that blurred the line between fantasy and controversy, proving that sometimes the strangest trip down the rabbit hole happens behind the camera, not on the screen. Number 3. Robert Pattinson. Before he became the sparkling vampire heartthrob of Twilight, or the dark and brooding Batman, Robert Pattinson found himself at the center of one of the most surprising stories in modern Hollywood. The film was Little Ashes, a drama about the life of legendary surrealist artist Salvador Dalí. On the surface, it looked like a small, independent movie that few people expected would make headlines. But one particular scene changed everything, and years later, Pattinson was still talking about it. Unlike many actors who rely on camera angles, editing tricks, or pure imagination, Pattinson decided to take realism to an entirely different level. While portraying Dalí, he faced several highly intimate scenes that required him to expose not only his character's emotions, but also his own vulnerability. According to Pattinson himself, he felt that simply pretending wouldn't create the authenticity he wanted. So he committed to the role in a way that shocked audiences and generated endless media attention. Suddenly, a quiet, artistic drama became the movie everyone was whispering about. What makes the story even more fascinating is Pattinson's honesty about the experience. Years later, he openly joked that his most embarrassing facial expressions had essentially been preserved forever on film. Think about that for a second. Most actors worry about a bad haircut being immortalized on screen. Pattinson had an entirely different problem. Somewhere in Hollywood history, a scene exists that he can never take back, no matter how many Batman movies he stars in. That's the kind of career decision that follows you to every interview. But behind the humor was something more serious. Pattinson viewed the choice as part of his commitment to artistic authenticity. He wasn't trying to create controversy for headlines. He believed the emotional truth of the character mattered more than protecting his own comfort. Whether audiences agreed with his approach or not, the result was undeniable. Little Ashes became one of the most talked about chapters of his early career. Long before he became one of Hollywood's biggest stars, Robert Pattinson proved that he was willing to take risks few actors would ever consider, and Hollywood has never quite forgotten it. Number 4. Shia LaBeouf and Stacey Martin. At number 4, we arrive at a film that practically dared audiences to look away. When Nymphomaniac, directed by Lars von Trier, was announced, everyone knew it would be controversial. But few expected it to spark so many headlines, rumors, and debates about what was actually happening on screen. At the center of the storm were Shia LaBeouf and Stacey Martin, two actors whose performances became the subject of endless speculation almost as soon as the film was released. Originally, the production had a plan that sounded very Hollywood. The actors would perform the scenes, body doubles would be used for the most explicit moments, and visual effects would help blend everything together. Problem solved. Lawyers happy. Studio executives sleeping peacefully. But then came the rumors that some of the cast, including LaBeouf, wanted a much more authentic approach. Suddenly, the conversation shifted from the movie's story to what level of realism was actually being captured on camera. Shia LaBeouf, never known for taking the boring route in life, openly discussed his commitment to the project. He explained that the film was exactly what audiences thought it was: a provocative exploration of desire with very few limits. His comments only fueled public curiosity. Meanwhile, Stacey Martin approached the situation from a completely different angle. Rather than focusing on the controversy, she described the filming process as surprisingly technical. In fact, she suggested that what looked shocking on screen often involved extensive preparation planning and behind-the-scenes coordination. In other words, while audiences imagined chaos, the reality may have looked more like an awkward workplace meeting with far too many cameras. The result was a film that became famous long before many people actually saw it. Critics argued, audiences debated, headlines multiplied, and years later, Nymphomaniac remains one of the most controversial movies of the modern era. Whether viewers saw it as bold art, calculated provocation, or simply Lars von Trier being Lars von Trier, one thing is certain: Shia LaBeouf and Stacey Martin became part of a project that pushed Hollywood's comfort zone to its absolute limit and then kept going. Think that's shocking? We're not done yet. The next stories get even crazier. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss Hollywood's biggest secrets. Now let's move on. Number 5, Fionnuala Flanagan and Chris O'Neill. At number 5 are Fionnuala Flanagan and Chris O'Neill in James Joyce's Women, a film that was never designed to be a simple love story. Based on the writings of James Joyce, the movie explored desire, loneliness, and emotional hunger in 19th century Ireland. But instead of staying safe and literary, the film took a shocking turn when one intimate scene between Flanagan and O'Neill was reportedly performed without simulation, turning a quiet art house drama into a controversial talking point. The purpose, according to the story around the film, was not cheap shock value. The filmmakers wanted the scene to feel as raw and emotionally honest as Joyce's writing itself. Flanagan's character represented passion and female longing, while O'Neill brought a vulnerable, conflicted masculine energy to the moment. Together, their scene was meant to show two people giving in to emotions they could no longer hide. Basically, it was literature class. If literature class suddenly made everyone in the room extremely uncomfortable. What made this entry so controversial was how seriously the actors seemed to treat the material. Flanagan reportedly explained that the goal was truth, not simple titillation. That detail matters because it changes the scene from something scandalous into something more complicated. Was it brave artistic realism? Was it unnecessary provocation? Or was it a case of filmmakers crossing a line just to make audiences whisper? That debate is exactly why the film still gets mentioned in conversations about cinema's most shocking, intimate moments. In the end, James Joyce's Women did not become a mainstream blockbuster, but it earned a strange kind of immortality. The film became remembered less for its quiet literary roots and more for the bold decision that pushed viewers to question the boundary between acting and reality. And that is what makes Fionnuala Flanagan and Chris O'Neill's story worth telling. They became part of a moment where cinema stopped pretending to be safe, and audiences were left wondering whether art had gone too far or finally told the truth. Number 6, The Notorious B.I.G. At number 6, we're stepping away from Hollywood and into the world of hip-hop, where one controversial moment sparked almost as much discussion as an entire movie. In 1994, the Notorious B.I.G. released Ready to Die, an album that would eventually become one of the most influential records in rap history. Packed with raw storytelling, dark humor, and brutally honest reflections on life in Brooklyn, the album helped transform Biggie from an unknown rapper into a cultural icon. But hidden among the tracks was one moment that had listeners asking, "Wait, did I really just hear that?" The controversy centered around an infamous interlude featuring sounds that many listeners interpreted as an actual intimate encounter. Unlike most artists who carefully polish every second of an album for radio play, Biggie seemed completely uninterested in playing it safe. The moment wasn't there to shock people for a few headlines. It fit perfectly into the album's larger theme of exposing every corner of his life, including the parts most artists would never dare share. As a result, fans found themselves rewinding the track, looking at their speakers, and wondering whether hip-hop had just crossed into entirely new territory. What made the situation even more fascinating was Biggie's reputation for authenticity. Throughout Ready to Die, he presented himself as flawed, vulnerable, ambitious, and often brutally honest. The controversial interlude felt like an extension of that philosophy. Some critics viewed it as a bold, artistic statement about masculinity and personal expression. Others thought it was simply Biggie pushing boundaries because, frankly, Biggie enjoyed pushing boundaries. And let's be honest, if there were an Olympic event for making parents uncomfortable in the 1990s, rap music was already competing for gold. Decades later, the debate continues. Was the interlude a genuine moment captured on tape, a carefully crafted sound effect, or something in between? No matter where listeners stand, one thing is undeniable. It helped cement Ready to Die as an album that refused to follow the rules. While most artists were worried about fitting into the industry, the notorious B.I.G. was busy rewriting the playbook. And judging by the fact that people are still talking about it today, he succeeded. Number 7, Kieran O'Brien and Margot Stilley. At number 7, we have Kieran O'Brien and Margot Stilley in 9 Songs. A film that didn't just push the boundaries of cinema, it practically sprinted past them and never looked back. Released in 2004 and directed by Michael Winterbottom, the movie follows a passionate relationship between two young lovers. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, not exactly. Because almost immediately after its release, 9 Songs became one of the most controversial films of the decade. For one reason, the intimate scenes weren't merely simulated. Unlike traditional Hollywood productions, where clever camera angles do most of the heavy lifting, 9 Songs took a radically different approach. The film featured unsimulated, intimate scenes between Kieran O'Brien and Margot Stilley, a decision that shocked audiences, divided critics, and generated headlines around the world. Suddenly, people weren't discussing the story, the characters, or even the soundtrack. They were debating whether the film was groundbreaking art or something that belonged in an entirely different category. What made the controversy even bigger was that neither actor tried to hide from the conversation. Kieran O'Brien openly defended the project, arguing that the film simply portrayed two people in a committed relationship behaving naturally. In his view, the public reaction said more about society's discomfort than the film itself. Margot Stilley shared a similar perspective, insisting that the movie was about love, intimacy, and human connection rather than shock value. In other words, while audiences were busy clutching their popcorn in disbelief, the actors were wondering what all the fuss was about. Of course, not everyone agreed. Critics attacked the film, some politicians condemned it, and many theaters were hesitant to screen it. Yet the controversy only made people more curious. The louder the criticism became, the more audiences wanted to see what everyone was arguing about. And that's why 9 Songs remains such a fascinating chapter in movie history. Love it or hate it, Kieran O'Brien and Margot Stilley created a film that forced audiences to confront an uncomfortable question: where exactly is the line between art and reality? More than 20 years later, people still can't agree on the answer, and that's probably why nobody has forgotten it. Now it's your turn. Do you think 9 Songs was a bold artistic statement, or did it go too far? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your take. Number 8, Sienna Miller and Hayden Christensen. At number 8, we have Sienna Miller and Hayden Christensen, 2 stars, who found themselves at the center of one of Hollywood's most persistent movie rumors. The film was Factory Girl, a drama based on the life of Edie Sedgwick, the iconic socialite and muse closely associated with Andy Warhol. The movie already had all the ingredients for controversy, fame, excess heartbreak, and celebrity culture. But it wasn't the storyline that got people talking. It was one particular intimate scene between Miller and Christensen that sent rumor mills into overdrive. Almost as soon as the movie was released, speculation began spreading that the chemistry between the 2 actors looked a little too convincing. The scene felt unusually raw, natural, and emotionally charged, leading some viewers to wonder whether they were watching a performance or something more. Before long, entertainment magazines, gossip columns, and online forums were buzzing with theories. Suddenly, audiences weren't discussing Edie Sedgwick's tragic life. They were busy playing detective with every frame of the movie. What makes this story especially interesting is that Sienna Miller wasted no time shutting the rumors down. She repeatedly insisted that nothing inappropriate had happened during filming and credited the scene's realism entirely to professional acting. According to Miller, what audiences saw on screen was simply the result of 2 actors doing their jobs exceptionally well. In other words, Hollywood gossip was working overtime, while the actors themselves were wondering why everyone seemed so surprised that good actors can actually act. But the rumors refused to disappear. Some reports even suggested that the speculation may have been strategically leaked to generate publicity for a film that faced production problems and struggled to gain momentum before release. If that's true, it may have been one of the oldest tricks in Hollywood's playbook. When people aren't talking about the movie, give them something else to talk about. Whether the rumors were genuine, exaggerated, or entirely manufactured, one thing is certain. Sienna Miller and Hayden Christensen became part of a controversy that ended up being almost as famous as Factory Girl itself, and years later, people still remember the rumor far more than the scene that started it. Number 9, Anna Paquin and Stephen Moyer. At number 9, we have Anna Paquin and Stephen Moyer, a couple whose romance blurred the line between television fantasy and real life. Fans of True Blood already knew the 2 stars shared explosive chemistry as Sookie Stackhouse and vampire Bill Compton. But unlike most Hollywood love stories that exist only on screen, this one followed the actors home. During the show's run, Paquin and Moyer fell in love for real and eventually got married instantly, turning every intimate scene into something fans couldn't stop talking about. That alone would have been enough to fuel years of speculation. But then came the later seasons of True Blood, where the show's famously steamy scenes became even more intense. One particular scene involving Anna Paquin's character and another supernatural love interest sparked a fresh wave of rumors. Viewers began wondering whether some of the passion they were seeing was acting, or whether the cast had simply become a little too comfortable in front of the cameras. After all, this wasn't your average television drama. This was True Blood, a show where vampires, werewolves, and romance all collided in the most outrageous ways possible. What made the story even more fascinating was Stephen Moyer's role behind the camera. In several episodes, including some featuring highly intimate scenes, Moyer wasn't just Anna Paquin's husband, he was also the director. Now imagine that workplace situation for a second. Most couples argue about whose turn it is to take out the trash. Moyer was directing scenes involving his wife and other actors while millions of viewers watched at home. That's a level of professional confidence most people can barely comprehend. To their credit, both actors handled the rumors with humor. Paquin joked that their household had developed an incredibly high tolerance for awkward conversations. Moyer also laughed about discussing on-screen romances at home, as if it were just another normal day. Yet despite years of speculation, neither ever confirmed the wild rumors surrounding certain scenes. And that's exactly why fans continue talking about them today. Because when a real-life marriage meets one of television's most passionate supernatural dramas, curiosity is practically guaranteed. Whether it was simply outstanding acting, or something more, Anna Paquin and Stephen Moyer created one of the most talked-about relationships in modern TV history. Number 10. Chloe Sevigny and Vincent Gallo. At number 10, we have Chloe Sevigny and Vincent Gallo in The Brown Bunny, a film that exploded into controversy after its 2003 premiere at Cannes. What was supposed to be a quiet drama about loneliness and regret quickly became the most talked-about movie of the festival because of one extremely explicit scene that left audiences stunned. As rumors spread that the scene was not simulated, critics predicted the controversy would destroy Sevigny's career. The media frenzy grew so intense that people stopped talking about the film's story altogether. Instead, everyone focused on the shocking moment that seemed to blur the line between cinema and reality. But rather than back away from the project, Sevigny defended it. She argued that the scene served an artistic purpose and only made sense within the emotional context of the film. Meanwhile, Gallo appeared far less concerned by the backlash, even joking about his unusual preparation for filming, proving that Hollywood controversies sometimes come with very strange behind-the-scenes stories. Surprisingly, the scandal didn't end Sevigny's career. She continued landing major roles and earned critical acclaim in the years that followed. Even renowned critic Roger Ebert later praised the film's emotional depth. More than 20 years later, The Brown Bunny remains one of Hollywood's most debated films, and Chloe Sevigny and Vincent Gallo remain at the center of a controversy audiences still haven't forgotten. Number 11. Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie. At number 11, we have Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie in Don't Look Now, a psychological thriller that delivered one of the most controversial scenes in movie history. Released in 1973, the film was praised for its suspense mystery and emotional storytelling. But despite all its artistic achievements, one intimate scene quickly became the center of attention. Audiences were stunned by how natural, emotional, and realistic it appeared, sparking rumors that refused to disappear. The scene wasn't filmed like a typical Hollywood love scene of the era. Instead of dramatic music and glamorous lighting, director Nicholas Roeg chose a more intimate and realistic approach. The result felt so authentic that many viewers became convinced they were witnessing something more than acting. Almost overnight speculation spread through Hollywood film magazines and entertainment circles. People weren't asking whether the scene was good, they were asking whether it was real. What kept the rumors alive was the chemistry between Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie. Their performances felt effortless, creating an emotional connection that many films struggle to achieve. Years later, Sutherland revealed that the rumors had become so widespread that some people genuinely believed they had crossed professional boundaries during filming. The actor repeatedly denied the claims, but by that point, the story had already taken on a life of its own. Hollywood loves a mystery, and this one came wrapped in a classic film. Ironically, the controversy may have helped cement the movie's legendary status. Critics now consider Don't Look Now one of the greatest psychological thrillers ever made, while the famous scene continues to be studied and debated decades later. Was it simply two talented actors delivering extraordinary performances? Or was it a case of audiences being unable to separate fiction from reality? Whatever the answer, Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie created a cinematic moment so convincing that Hollywood is still talking about it more than 50 years later. Number 12. Mickey Rourke and Carey Otis. At number 12, we have Mickey Rourke and Carey Otis in Wild Orchid, a film that generated almost as much controversy as publicity. Shortly after its release, rumors began spreading that some of the movie's intimate scenes looked far too realistic to be ordinary Hollywood acting. Before long, audiences were talking more about the chemistry between the stars than the movie itself. The speculation grew because Rourke and Otis shared an undeniable connection on screen. Their performances felt natural and emotionally charged, leading many viewers to wonder whether the line between acting and reality had become blurred. Gossip magazines quickly turned the story into one of Hollywood's hottest topics. What really fueled the rumors was what happened after filming ended. Mickey Rourke and Carey Otis fell in love in real life and eventually got married. For many fans, that seemed to confirm every theory they already believed. After all, when on-screen partners become a real-life couple, people tend to assume the spark started long before the cameras stopped rolling. Whether the rumors were true or simply clever, Hollywood mythology remains a mystery. But one thing is certain: Wild Orchid became famous for far more than its storyline. More than 3 decades later, Mickey Rourke and Carey Otis are still remembered as the couple whose chemistry was so convincing that audiences could never quite separate the movie from real life.